Welcome to Ecclesia Principles, a biblical strategy for believers to engage in God's design for government with Ray Eppard.
Hello, glad you could join us again today. Today we're going to start looking at some different things. We've discussed the 12 different ecclesia principles that I believe are the main principles that we have to make sure are implemented in our thoughts about government and should be implemented in government. But with this, I want to begin to look at some of the application of these principles, especially now as we are entering an election season. There already are some debates, and it seems like there's a constant polling of who's winning and who's ahead and so forth. But we need to understand the role of believers. We need to understand our role in government. We need to understand what we really need to be looking for. And with that, this week I'm going to be talking about some things relative to where we are as a nation and some things that we actually need to prioritize, that we need to understand the dynamics of where we are as a nation right now and which of these ecclesia principles, we need all of them, but which ones we need to pay particular attention to at this time. Now, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, I want to use that as my text this time. It says, "Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." God said, let us make man and let them have dominion. And at that point, when we see in Genesis chapter 2, God actually made Adam at the beginning of the day, and he made Eve at the end of the day. Now, so in that situation, we see that there was one person that had dominion. By the end of the day, there were two that had dominion. They together had dominion over the earth. Now, with this, that creating them that way, creating Adam first and then Eve, there's a lot of things that teaches us. Much of what God did and how he did it in Genesis 1 and 2, and really all the way through, really up through chapter 11. There's so much about that. Don't misunderstand me here. It is historical. It is accurate historically. But the way God did so much of what he did was tutorial in nature. It was done to teach us things. He did it that way on purpose. Genesis 25:2 says, "It is the glory of God to conceal a matter. It is the glory of kings to search out a matter." God put so much of how he functions and his expectations in particularly Genesis chapters 1 through 11. So much of that is tutorial for us. Now, with this, creating Adam first, the individual, you see, self-government is the foundation of government. It is the foundation of society in that sense. God established self-government as the basis that everything else would come upon. He did that first. You see, where we're at as a nation today, I want to draw a little bit of a contrast. Our nation was founded. We're about 3 years away from celebrating the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And with that, the struggle of the Revolutionary War wasn't just to be free from England. That if that's all people think about, they are missing so much of the point of what drove the founding fathers to fight, to pledge their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, as they said at the end of that declaration. That is being missed because ultimately the struggle there, and it's why it's contained in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal. That God did not create one person to rule over someone else. Thomas Jefferson is said to have made the comment one time that one is not born to ride the other. One born with spurs and boots to be, and the other one born to be basically a beast of burden. That was not the case. They were that struggle between the monarchy and the people, that it was not designed by God to be that way. That was a huge part of that struggle. Ultimately, that battle, that war, was about self-government, taxation without representation, self-government, that we have a right to have a say in what happens with us. And King George, in that situation, had put so much aside of even the things that through the Magna Carta and the different advances that England had made, he was putting so much of that aside in regard to the colonies. Not so much in England, but the colonies were a long way away from England, and he was trying to impose it there. And he was setting aside the things that were expected as English citizens. And they were fighting for self-government, to go even beyond where things were in England, to have that self-government. Again, self-government is the foundation of society in that situation. Now, with this, let's jump ahead 247 years to today. Today, we're fighting a reverse struggle. Today, so much of our society, even so much of our government, is whittling away at the rights and the liberty and the self-government of individuals. Government is now trying to continue to very insidiously move further and further into the lives of people and have control, be the decider, decide everything. Your values has to match the government values. See, ultimately, we often forget that the freedom of the press in the First Amendment was so that people that had a different view could express their view. The problem is right now our media is so aligned with one ideological group that there's so much that doesn't get put into the mainstream today because they've so much aligned with certain people in government. And so that freedom of the press is really about the freedom of opinion, to have an opinion different from those in power. And that if you had an opinion different from those in power, you were protected by the Constitution. So much of what's happening in our society today is eating away at those liberties. It's eating away at the Bill of Rights that was given to us, that these are the, as the Declaration says, we've been given unalienable rights, among these being life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Bill of Rights is the others that are not listed there. And with that, that freedom to have an opinion different. We see so many cases today where even professionals, that scientists, medical people, that if they have a different opinion than those who are in power, then they can be shut down. They can be punished, if you would. Their license can be taken because they have a different opinion than those in power. You see, one of the things that we need to understand right now is we're ultimately fighting the same battle that our founding fathers were fighting, only we're on the flip side of it. They won these liberties for us. We must defend them. And at that point, we have to elect people who understand the liberties granted us by the Constitution, by the Bill of Rights, by the Declaration of Independence, because those are our founding documents. All of them are, and all of them are to shape how we function as a nation. We need to elect people that understand those principles and are standing for those principles, especially the idea and the concept of self-government, because the more that gets eaten away, the more our liberties go away. Because ultimately, one of our principles was understanding jurisdictional government. There are different jurisdictions. Civil government has its place, but its place is defined. Matter of fact, the entire Bill of Rights was designed to show the boundaries of civil government. That, and even in the Constitution, it says those powers not expressly given to the government are retained by the states and by the people. You see, when we talk about the concepts of limited government, it's not talking about small government. Our nation is big, and we're going to have a large government. That's just the facts. But limited government is really addressing the concept of jurisdictions, that there are things that the government has no right getting into. That's why in the Bill of Rights, this phrase is used: Congress shall make no law. Congress shall make no law. You see, that is the concept of limited government. Limited by what? Limited by the other jurisdictions that God created. Self-government, family government, church government, or faith from that standpoint, along with civil government. Each one of those has their own jurisdiction. Faith is an individual choice. It is the freedom of conscience. Now, I'm a Christian. I think everybody ought to be a Christian. But I would defend the right for any person to believe in whatever God they wanted, regardless how wrong I might think they are. Because the bottom line is that is a part of their liberty. That is a part of their conscience. That is a part of their self-government. And them having the ability to express that faith. Congress shall make no law establishing religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So many want to concentrate so much on the establishment, but there also needs to be the counterbalance to that. Free exercise has to be permitted as well. Self-government, the ability to function by conscience. We have to be electing people. We have to be promoting people that understand that the basics of government, liberty, it's founded on self-government. God bless you. See you tomorrow.